What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Shelf, and today we are talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. Whew. Wow. That was a big episode. Yeah, right off the bat, guys, this is going to be spoilers all through the video. There's no way to talk about this episode without delving into spoilers, so unlike my first video in this series for Episode 1, where it was spoiler-free, I have to talk about spoilers in this one. I just can't not do it. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, click off this video. This is not the video for you. Go watch the episode and then come back after. So yeah, guys, in my first video, I expressed that I had a lot of concerns as far as where this season was going to go and how the creators were going to change things from the game. I'm not going to compare the show to the game all the time. I feel like that would get annoying to people who haven't played the game, but just for me, having just beaten the second game like 2.5 weeks ago, it's very fresh in my mind still. So I'm not actually sure if that's good or bad yet. Time will tell, because it could be a hindrance, because I could be setting myself up for like direct comparisons and perhaps being too critical, because I do know that they are going to change certain things, Season 1 being an indicator that they are going to take liberties, but it will never deviate too far thematically from what the first game and now the second game were and are about. So all that to say, I'm just trying to approach this season with an open mind and, you know, be okay with them changing things. I actually would encourage them to. I don't need it to be one-to-one, but certain things do need to be there and should not be changed. And that is what we got in Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. They did the thing and they didn't change it, and it's actually very, very faithful to how it plays out in the game. So I'm burying the lead here a little bit, but yeah, basically they did the thing. They killed Joel. Abby killed Joel, and it was really heartbreaking, and it was really effective, and man, it was just so good. So yeah, that's what I was alluding to in last week's video, where, you know, there's a really important thing that happens early in the game, and it sets in motion the events of the second game. And that is clearly what they're doing here with Season 2 of the show. So a lot of my concerns just stemmed from not knowing yet what they were going to do, how far they were going to change things, and if at all they were going to drag out the events leading up to Joel's eventual death, because I never really thought that they wouldn't do it. You know, part of me was concerned that, you know, when the second game came out, there was a lot of negative discourse online about the killing of Joel. And there was a part of me that was concerned that for the show, they were going to try to maybe change things a little bit to kind of soften the blow, or God forbid, change them entirely, or, you know, just not stick to their guns and double down on what they did in that game. Because I think it's very, very effective in the game, and it's really emotional, and it pulls no punches. And I really commend Naughty Dog for having the balls to kill off this beloved character, because, you know, in my eyes, it's not only authentic feeling, because, you know, in this world people die, so it's very thematically appropriate, but having the balls to kill off one of your main characters and, you know, just double down on it and be like, yeah, like, this is what we did, deal with it. And that's what the characters do, and that's what the fans have to do. And it's all very interesting to me. And the fact that it was so controversial and thought-provoking and it had everyone talking is, you know, what makes it so effective. And, you know, that's proof of it. We're still talking about it all these years later. But anyway, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because, you know, my thoughts are all over the place. And usually I do type these out, but instead, for this episode, I felt like I kind of needed to just wing it, so here we are. But anyway, in this episode, they do change other things, and the changes that they do make were really, really cool. First and foremost being the fact that Abby inadvertently brings down this infected horde on Jackson Hole, and that horde being called down is inadvertently, you know, part of the events that lead to bringing Joel right into the palm of her hand, basically. So now we're dealing with a battle on two fronts, right? Only it's not so much a battle on Joel's front, but regardless, there's two places where our attention is being diverted. And on one hand, you have this battle on Jackson Hole, which is super, super epic and really cool. And it reminded me of like Game of Thrones and like when they're defending the wall and like stuff like that. You know, obviously you have the snow imagery, but like just, you know, all the plans and everything. It's very reminiscent of that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And furthermore, I really liked that it gives Tommy a larger role in the community, you know, as the leader of Jackson Hole, and just seeing him take on that leadership role and, you know, really put himself out there on the front lines, battling these infected and trying to save everybody. And his battle with the Shambler was pretty sweet. It reminded me of playing the game again, where, you know, you're blasting this Shambler with the flamethrower, like, all right, like, die now, like, and you just keep holding down that trigger, but he just still keeps coming. So it felt like they were channeling the game in a big way there, and I really admired that. Also, in my first video that I did for episode 1, I commented on these like infected tendrils that had made their way into the town, and I didn't really put together at the time that it's essentially, you know, the cordyceps is like this, you know, network of mycelium or mushrooms basically, and they all have a hive mind, the infected. So the tendrils are like a byproduct of the infected, and they had made their way into the town, and then when the horde was awoken by Abby, the tendrils essentially notified the infected that, you know, this is where they should go, because they're all able to communicate with each other. So I didn't put that together right away. You guys probably already realized that, but you know, that's just me kind of amending my criticism, or not so much criticism, my uncertainty about that plot point in my first video. So, you know, now I know what that was all about, and I thought it was a really cool way to in-world explain how this infected horde would be able to find them. So yeah, that was really cool. It was really interesting. I don't think that's in the game, so that's cool. Yeah, nice little thing that they were able to do to further flesh out how the infected would be able to find them. And so now that's something that the survivors need to be aware of as well, that maybe they weren't aware of before. We also learned a little bit more about Eugene. Jesse and Ellie are paired up for patrol in the show, and they find Eugene's grow op, I guess you would call it, where he's growing all this weed. And, you know, we know that Eugene is the husband of Gail, or was the husband of Gail, Joel's therapist. So yeah, he's another character in the game where he's never really shown on screen, and he's only referred to. And I think that this is going to be a similar plot device to season 1 with Bill and Frank, where we meet Bill, but we never actually meet Frank. And so they take that entire off-screen plot dynamic, that whole relationship, and then they flesh it out in an entire episode. And what that does is it's used to juxtapose the events and the ongoings of our main characters, and it's sort of reflected on these characters and how our main characters are able to take something away from their experience. So, you know, for example, Joel basically takes away from Bill and Frank's whole relationship that there is a reason for going on, and that's to protect others. And that's what Bill did with Frank, and that's what Joel will do with Ellie. I'm predicting that in subsequent episodes, we will get little bits more about Eugene as the show goes on, and then, you know, by the end, it'll all make sense. And it'll be a similar situation where we take this character who's only really kind of mentioned in the game, and he's really fleshed out and brought to life, and we use his character to, you know, mirror the events of, you know, Joel and ultimately Ellie. So I'm really looking forward to, you know, how they handle that. And, you know, again, all the criticisms that I had based on the first episode are basically gone now, because they did the big thing that I needed them to do. And don't worry, we're going to talk more about that at the end. But they did all the things that I needed them to do. And now I know that they're not afraid of their own story, which was probably a naive concern on my part, but again, it was something that I was like, okay, like, I just need to see that they do it, and once I've seen that they do it, we're good to go. And so that's where we're at now. So I'm very, very excited for what the rest of this season is going to bring. I'm fully on board now. This episode was phenomenal. So, you know, getting up until the climax of this episode, Ellie's kind of sidelined. She really doesn't have all that much screen time until the very end. And I actually enjoyed this because it gives her introduction. I say introduction, she's through the episode, but the introduction in the finale is where things really, you know, amp up and the stakes are raised. So it makes it so that when she does get to that house and she sees what's going on, so much more impactful, because for all she knows at this point, there's just a storm, and I don't even think she knows that the infected are at Jackson Hole by this point. I could be wrong. So like, she goes from just being totally blissfully unaware that anything's really wrong, and then now all of a sudden Joel is being killed right in front of her eyes. And I think Bella Ramsey does a really great job of just portraying that grief and that misery. And we're going to see it fleshed out more in next week's episode, I'm sure, where everyone is reeling from the aftermath of Joel's death. And I suspect that this will be a very slow episode, a lot of setting up for what's to come. Because after last week's episode, we kind of need to like take a breath and like decompress, because that was a lot. That was a lot. But yeah, man. And then, you know, the last thing I guess I'll say is that Caitlin Dever, like I said, I think earlier, really does a great job. Any concerns I think I had about her maybe not matching that physicality of the game character are kind of gone now. She's proven that she can still be violent, and obviously you can be violent without being super muscular. But yeah, you know, I think it's okay. It's not a huge deal. It would have been nice to kind of feel that reflected in the other characters, you know, that fear of her, because she is a very intimidating character, and without that, she kind of has to rely more on her, you know, presence, I guess, and her actions. So it's perhaps a minor thing, but, you know, I'm all about seeing people's visions adapted and fully realized. And again, I'm okay with some changes, but, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, guys, Joel is gone. You know, if you're watching this show and this video and you've never played the games and you've somehow managed to avoid all spoilers, I would love to hear from you guys, because you are the ones who had no idea that this was coming, right? Or perhaps didn't suspect it, because the show even kind of suggests like maybe someone's gonna rush in and like save him, like Deus Ex Machina or whatever, like at the last minute they'll get interrupted. But no, it just happens. And it actually makes no sense that someone could rush in, right? Because it's a snowstorm and everyone's occupied at Jackson Hole. So like, I think realistically we all knew, even those of us who knew it was going to happen, you know that there is no saving him in this situation. Literally everything is against him. The people around him, the weather, you know, the situation at his home, Jackson Hole, like there's no feasible way that Joel could be saved in this instance. And that's what I really like, is the authenticity and the stripping away of the plot armor and this notion that main characters can't die. You know, I really like that, because that's when you have the most interesting conversations. So anyway, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode. Are you excited for where the show is going? Are you pissed off and are you not watching it anymore? Yeah, let me know. I'm really interested in your unique perspective, because I think it's a very interesting framework to be watching this show under. All right, guys, so that is my review for Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. Again, I'll just reiterate, I really loved this episode. It felt very epic in the best HBO sort of way. You know, it doesn't pull any punches. It's faithful to the game, but it adds things and makes it even better than it was in the game, if I may say so. Yeah, just a really great episode and really promising. I'm very excited to see where things go from here. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about new movies, old movies, TV shows, I guess now, physical media, and horror in general. So yeah, with all that being said, please take care and watch more movies.